I'm Anthony Galati. I'm the music director here at Never Apart. And with me today, I've got guest host Jesse Osborne-Lanthier. I got Chino Amobi. And we've got Yves Tumor. And they're all playing a show tonight at Alexandra Platz for our... Jesse's not playing, but Jesse will be in attendance. And they're playing our collaboration with Melissa Gagne under the Underage name. And yeah, we're excited to have them here for this talk. And I chose Jesse to do this because he's very much acculturated to this kind of talk, I think. So here we go.
Well, I've never done a talk before, so this is a first for me. First off, for those of you who don't know me, the two people right there maybe, that guy, I'm Jesse Osborne-Lanthier. I'm a multidisciplinary artist and musician working with labels like Raster Noten, Where To Now, Alcyon Vale, which is also connected to Chino here. I don't have any questions for Yves Tumor here, because I didn't know he was going to be there. Yeah, okay, cool. Chino is a Richmond-based visual artist, designer, musician, sound artist interested in geopolitics and using art and music to hold a dialogue regarding the political and social situations of everyday life. Yeah. It's also the main founder of Non-Worldwide, which is a collective of African artists and the diaspora using sound as their primary media to articulate the visible and invisible structures that create binaries in society and in turn distribute power. I met Chino in Berlin a few months ago, and so basically for those of you who don't know him, I think it would be just easy to go through the conversation we had in Berlin, so I'm just going to go with a Q&A type thing, and we can take it from there. So first off, how did you get into music? The boring question first, of course, to lead to the, yeah.
Like, ever since I was 6 or 5, like, my brother, he's, like, older. We used to make, like, tapes, like, radio shows where we would record songs off the radio, but then we would, like, be DJs in between them, and, like, we would do this one vocal where we would speed up a voice to make it sound like we're like having a conversation with Alvin and the Chipmunks and stuff like that, and like we would be like fighting them and stuff like that. But then we would put our own songs into it, like I had this one song. I was like 6 or 7. It was like stop, look, and listen wherever you go. I don't remember the rest though, but that was like one of the songs. So I like been doing it for forever and always messing with like music programs like PlayStation, music generators, and like hip hop EJ, like bootleg CD-ROM.
When did the entire like critical kind of intellectual part come into the music side of things? Like, when did you become kind of active politically within your music, or when did you start making it more seriously?
When I was like 15 in high school, I had a hip hop crew, and we called ourselves the Neo Negro League, and it was very much on like the idea of what a Negro can be and trying to just be radical about that identity. And we would take on all these different names, like, and try to challenge what, like, a rapper could be. So, in that sense, like, I was thinking about certain things back then. And then I started my project as Diamond Black-Hearted Boy, like, in my 20s. And that was very much about trying to, like, challenge people and be confrontational about like my presence alone, you know. But then I started making stuff as Chino Amobi, and I wanted it to be not like behind any mask. I just wanted it to be me. Like there's no division between myself and audience. There's no division between myself and the street. Like I can say on the stage, I'm Chino Amobi, then I walk out of this room. You know what I'm saying? What I did is not disassociated. But then also like what has promulgated my collaborations with a lot of other people has promulgated that sense of political identity, because it's not just me, it involves a larger group, and it brings out a lot more like criticality in terms of something outside of myself. And I think that that's one of the reasons people have been responsive in such like a powerful way, because it's inclusive, you know, to the point of, oh, we're not isolated. I feel like when people link up, you know, it's like stronger than just the individual. So that made me want to take it more seriously by thinking about, you know, this is not just my life that I'm affecting by pushing this. It's many others, like sociologically, and
when you talk about this, are you talking about non as like non the collective and what it's
right.
brought to the people surrounding you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't say that, but yeah.
It's fine. Do you feel that through non or through music you can actually convey political impact or change, or how do you go about, you know, like we all do this kind of thing where we'll name a track title, something political or something, but how do you go about maybe having an impact by performing, or is it even something that exists? Like, do people in the audience relate to you as someone political, or is it just...
I don't think everybody does, you know, in a way that is like conscious, maybe more on a subconscious level everybody does, but on a conscious level, I think that it can be such a powerful political tool to change people's lives. I mean, music is common, you know, in us all, and like even, you know, feeling your heartbeat and stuff like that. So in terms of bringing people together and bringing peace and camaraderie and like solidarity, you know, it's like that same spirit that when you're in a club, you know, wilding out, you feeling like you're on top of the world. Instead of just ending there, like you take that same spirit and then you're just walking around, you see those people that you were there with, and it's like, all right, like let's unite to do something, you know, that can bring culture, you know, into an environment and empower people and change people's lives, not just by making music, because then you can start doing a lot of other things together, like social justice, you know, and like community development, planning, and stuff like that. Just the way that you eat, you know, might change because you like this person's music taste, and it's like, oh, I respect how they eat, you know, like. I have a question. Where'd you get the name Yves Tumor? Is that like Yves Saint Laurent combined with Yves Tanguy, or like, you know, I always that's a good name, you know. I just don't know.
I actually got the name. It was like 2010. This catfish profile, which is a person that has a page and pictures of someone else, but they're not that person. I wrote this girl, or I'm not sure if it was a girl or a guy, and that was her Facebook name. But her name was actually Mary something, and I wrote her like when I was like really young, and I was like, can I use this name for a project one day? And she said yes, and I sat on it for years and years. Yeah, that's it.
It's very romantic.
Could you talk a bit more about non-worldwide? Like, what do you see? where do you see the future of non? Like, what has it brought to you? What is it? Yeah.
I mean, ideally, like, global domination.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like, but you gotta start somewhere. So like, having a school, like. You hear about so many people, doing these workshops and empowering people, like a lot of DJs, woman collectives that are just, going everywhere, putting people on. And to be, anytime I see a woman who is DJing, like I get so hyped because, what I'm saying, it's like a really powerful thing, for like men to be like having to sit there and just be like, yeah, take that, like, like I'm doing what I want to do and I'm playing what I want to play, and I thought of this, and then they play their own stuff. But I was thinking about schools, like schools, because teaching, like it's such a powerful thing, and I want to have like a non-school that exists on a local platform, but then also internationally, because I think people can just like revolutionize culture with that, and like the momentum just like snowball effect, and it's just all these kids doing all this fly shit, and it's like, damn, y'all are really doing it, so like just more social justice, like actually being able to provide jobs for people to become economically independent and autonomous without having to like rely on somebody. They can do it through their creativity, and the creativity like doesn't just include club tracks or sound. It's like sound can go so far, it's not just about songs, like. But we all love songs, and everybody loves a good narrative. But it extends into the like human, the human evolution, like, and I feel like non can participate in that human evolution because peace, bringing peace to is so important, and I want non to be huge in bringing peace to people in practical ways. So there's a large vision. I also want to do like residencies, like where like in different countries where people can go like collectively as a group, and like with engineers, designers, multidisciplinary, like mathematicians, filmmakers, and just like stay at a spot for like a year and just make something. Like who knows what will happen, and get that like funded by I'm saying like some crazy organization. And also like to have our own we have a periodical, like we've put out literature publication. Future goal is to have that in print, circulated on a level where you could go down the street anywhere and find it, like, and just work a lot more with kids, and just really do all we can. So a friend gave me the idea of like he was actually asking me, he was like, if you imagine yourself on a record label, like what would it be? And I named a couple that I thought like had some things in line with what I did, like some similar values, aesthetics, but there wasn't one that I felt completely that I could identify with. So a couple of people like hinted at me like, yeah, you should start your own, like, so I just like ran across some people's music on SoundCloud, and I came across Angel Ho, and they live in South Africa, and I was like, yo, I have to put your music out, like more people need to hear this. So I reached out to them, and we just started going off like conversation, just like rapid fire. It was like we felt completely aligned in our vision and thoughts and like ambition. And I toured Europe in 2014, and there was a performer. Her name was Nkisi, and she, her family's from the Congo, and she grew up in Belgium and now lives in London. And when I performed with her in 2014, I was like, I have to work with her, like at a certain capacity. I don't know what it will look like. So then come 2015, right around this time, that's when I first reached out to Angel Ho. And then we were like, yeah, we want to include one more person as the founder. And I was like, I know who the perfect person would be. Then I asked her. She was immediately about it ASAP. We kept on conversating online, like days upon days, like 6-hour conversations, you know, just about stuff that we believe in, stuff that we value and everything. And then we were like, yeah, we should just put out some mixes, you know, and then we just like threw them up on SoundCloud, made like a Facebook page. Then we threw up some more tracks and just kept on like snowballing, working with more artists. Then we did like a compilation tape, and the response like globally was really positive because I don't know, I guess people really like identify with our philosophy and like the spirit of it. So it's been about a year now since we've been doing that, and yeah, we got some cool stuff lined up. The philosophy is the advancement and visibility of artists of the African descent and African diaspora who are oftentimes overlooked and undervalued, especially in the realms of art and electronic music. Like it's not, certain things are not canonized in a certain way or taken as seriously, you know. It's like, oh, that's good, you know, but it, you know, it's not like Duke Ellington or something. I don't know. And then there's like the being young thing. Some people are like, oh, you know, get a little older and we can take you more seriously. But it's like, nah, like we are serious, and our music is, you know, more relevant than the stuff that you guys are, you know, writing like 10-page reviews about. I don't know. Like, and I say that humbly. I just like I believe in these artists, and I hear these sounds, and I'm very plugged in, like mentally, to like the spirit of what they're about. So I can see it in contrast to like everything around, and I just want people to see that and to know like they got something to say, you know, and like you should hear it. You need to hear it, you know, whether you like it or not. That's not my problem, but the response and the unity that we've got across all fronts, like many like people of color coming to us, just like wanting to work with us, you know, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good thing, that it's a necessary thing that there was a lack of. So it's like trying to solve a problem. Yeah. So that's more like the philosophy.
We were kind of discussing in the car, Chino, about you growing up in Richmond, Virginia, and the historical context that Richmond plays in America's history. And I'm just curious, maybe if we could expand on that, how that promoted you doing non, and what the environment that you grew up in, how that kind of promoted kind of, again, the vibe of it.
For sure. Yeah, so I grew up outside of Richmond, Virginia, in a city called Chesterfield, and it's like real sleepy town, a lot of Confederate flags, like people's backyard, you know, like I grew up around, like going to these people's houses to play baseball and stuff like that, and it, you know, it's like everything will be cool until, you know, like a black dude comes over and is trying to date the girl's daughter, you know what I'm saying? Then stuff starts to pop off. So it's like real tense environment. And Richmond, Virginia was the capital of the South during the Civil War. So like that foundation, you drive around the city, there's still monuments to all these like Confederate soldier leaders, and it's pretty crazy. Like they do parades around them and things like that. So there's always this like underlying tension. Neighborhoods are very segregated. Like a lot of black people live in the projects across the town, inner city areas. Typical what you find in many cities, you know, but like added on to that is like the history of the South and, you know, the legacy of the Civil War. So there's definitely like been tense moments that I've experienced from that in Richmond. And sometimes I feel like I'm even like not as hyper aware as the effect of living in the South has had on me, you know, because like you even look at things that happened in Baltimore, you know, which would still be considered the South, and like Ferguson and all that. It's like, you know, it's just crazy the unrest that comes out of a situation where many of us take for granted, you know. It's like that type of stuff happens all the time, like around where I live, but it's just like taking for granted these people, you know. It's like, I don't know. But yeah, it definitely has really, really influenced my work, I would say. And the fact that I've seen kids like growing up been discriminated against terribly. I've been stopped by cops, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that's always put something in me that I want to work with black people, you know. And it's not like I don't not want to work with white people, you know what I'm saying? I love white people, but like I feel a conviction to put like my people on and to work with them in ways that like some of the white kids that I know, they have a different opportunities, you know what I'm saying? The black kids, sometimes they don't have the same opportunities or haven't had even somebody to tell them, yeah, you can like do this. This is, you know what I'm saying? You just do this on some like punk energy. Like, you know, you don't even have to wait on this like record label to come at you and be like, yeah, let me sign you, you know? It's like, and the more we unite, I feel like the more powerful we get. Like, if it was just me doing it, like, the platform wouldn't be the same, you know. That militancy is there, and which is also militancy of the South. You know, South is like mad militant, so that's had an influence on me too. Like, yeah, like that, like even fascist type aesthetics, like and stuff like that. Like seeing a monument.
Yeah,
I know that
I was gonna ask about the communist kind of aesthetic that you have. Right. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, I love the brutalist aesthetic, you know what I'm saying, the communist, because, like, it's so powerful, and, you know, I'm definitely aware of the fact that, like, millions of people have died under the name of that, in the same way that, like, millions of people have died under the name of the cross and the Quran, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, that's a symbol. Like, people use that symbol to do something, but that symbol, like, to me, retains a purity, and there's a strength there, you know what I'm saying? Like, even like the swastika, you know, like Hitler, he like flipped it, you know, and like took it and just like appropriated it, and he was like, nah, this is my shit, because like I know how powerful this is, so I'm gonna use it, you know what I'm saying? But it was for an inverted effect, you know. I think about these symbols and like ways in which we can redeem them, you know, but at the same time not being unaware of the history of that symbol. Like, so there's multiple things going on, and there's multiple voices within one voice, you know? Like, if somebody says to somebody, you know, love your labor, like love your labor, that can be like some fascist, like saying to you, love your labor because I'm making millions of dollars off of your, you know what I'm saying, slave labor. But it can also be somebody saying, love your labor because you can find peace in your work, you know? But it just shows like the power of words, you know, and like perspectives. It's like very malleable. And I think about that in terms of like being fluid and being able to change the meanings of things to change culture.
Do you think it's radical? Like, do you think that the aesthetic itself lends itself to be radical?
Yeah, because people are terrified of it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, especially like the American history, like, people don't know what to think of that, you know. They're like, oh, communism, like, you know, because there was like the Red Scare, the Bay of Pigs, you know, Cuban Missile Crisis. So people see that and they have baggage to it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like being a part of American in a certain way is like not having that same baggage about certain things. Like, so I definitely, you know, mess around a lot with like the free play of signs and signifiers, but at the same time, I'm still doing it with the knowledge of the history. Like, it's not divorced from that, but also I like playing into the whole like, yo, like you're scared of this, you know, because there's something appealing about being scared. Like, when people turn the TVs on and saw NWA and all that, like.
Yeah. Do you think there could be the same impact with like love, for instance, and peace, and like, because
right. Love is scary. Like, love is terrifying.
But yeah. Do you think that something positive, like your music is quite violent, to use that word? Yeah, people say that, of course. But do you think that doing the opposite could have some kind of the same effect? Like, could you convey a message, a political message, through being kind of healthy and positive rather than being destructive and abrasive?
Yeah. I mean, I think that being violent sometimes.
Not that there's no love in what you're doing.
Right. No. It's a good question. The thing about it is like I don't find it necessarily to like bifurcate the two, because like sometimes you have to destroy things in terms of to create things. Like, you gotta destroy to love. Sometimes, like, to love somebody, like, you gotta die in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? It's like a type of death. Even to learn new information is like a type of death. So it's like that. When people say that this is violent and this is that, it's like, I think of it in terms of like, this is a death that you're experiencing in order to bring about a higher love, you know what I'm saying? Like something at the core. Yeah, because I'm just the destruction thing is important. Yeah. I just feel like you have to destroy stuff in order to get to that place of love. Yeah. I ain't with that hippie stuff. I ain't with that hippie message, like, yeah.
Given that there's all these challenges in America,
Right.
it seems like you're taking a lot of inspiration from the African diaspora.
Right.
So obviously there's something great,
Yeah.
inspiring that you're bringing in.
Totally. I mean, yeah, my parents, you know, they're from Nigeria. So, and I've been back like a good amount of times, and there's a lot of poverty, you know. But, yeah, people got houses and stuff, you know. People see pictures of Africa, think everybody living in huts, running around, grabbing alligators and lions and safaris. But
Like flies all over
the place. Nah, like my uncle's like spot, my uncle's house is like as like big as this, and he's got like space in the backyard, like trucks, like. But so anyway though, there is poverty though, but there's a unity, like there's a family vibe. Like even if somebody's not, you know, your blood relative, they grew up around the same area you grew up in, or they're friends of your brothers, they're your cousins. That's what you just say, like, that's my cousin. That's like fam. And you'll always have something to eat, you know. People are always gonna look out for you. And there's that spirit of family, you know, ancestors. Like, that stuff is really important. And that spirit of unity and camaraderie and love for one another, like in spite of the circumstances that they may be living, because it's like a tough life, you know. Anytime you're not like the richest person in a country where the middle class is like few and far between. One second. But yeah. That aspect is very important to me, and also the creative expression. You know, black people are very passionate people. You know what I'm saying? We can get even when like it can look like we're being violent when we're just partying, you know what I'm saying? So that type of spirit, like I bring into my everything, you know what I'm saying? But that's just that's how we get close to one another, that tension.
So in terms of self-representation, which is, I guess, part of what non represents,
Right.
Do you think it should just end with the main goal of actually, like, let's say, creating a platform for people of African diaspora to, like, showcase their works, and it should just end at that? So self-representation for, like, the sake of self-representation? Or should it be more of a larger thing where we want to showcase our creativity, our works, for the sake of increasing our representation in mainstream media? Do you know what I mean? In the terms of having two different goals in it, rather than it just being exclusively for us, it's also for the future and having us more represented in the mainstream.
The mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
When you say mainstream, like who's the mainstream?
Well, I mean, like just in the main context of like.
Like, give me an example.
It's.
Like what the mainstream that will be looking at us would be.
Like maybe the music industry.
Yeah, just like I guess just the more.
Okay.
That the mainstream media that has access to like the largest amount of people, like the masses of people,
like
you know,
NPR.
Like Pitchfork.
yeah,
or something.
more
NPR.
like in the sense of like NPR in that regard, you know,
NPR.
where just like it
BBC.
has,
Yeah.
so it has access to such like large amounts of
Okay.
like people that it can reach. So then, should we be more focusing on increasing representation in that regard, or?
That's a good question. NPR for me, or like, you know, Democracy Now! And stuff like that. In an ideal sense, like within our philosophy, those would be the afterthought. Like because our platform and our radio station and our magazine and our level of curatorial content and graphic design would be more relevant. Yeah. So I don't say that like in an egotistical way. I just mean that that's like the strength of what we would be doing is. So it's like if they support what we're doing and they want to interview our people, sure, you know, but like I think our conversation with ourselves would be even stronger. Yeah.
Do you feel like maybe if we take it down a notch and bring it closer to the musician or artist, do you feel like the festival circuit, for instance, is understanding and is trying to integrate your social values and your structure within what they're trying to do? Like festivals like CTM, for instance, are very keen on the geopolitical value of these things, but then you see other festivals that seem to kind of ignore that entire social structure side of things.
Right. No, I'm great. I'm grateful, and I think it's like a huge theme whenever a festival wants to book, like, you know, majority people of color or like majority queer musicians, you know, because you're not going to find that everywhere. And yeah, I celebrate that. I mean, I want to get to the point where when we're able to do our own festivals, you know, on a like large scale, like in Africa, you know, and stuff like that. But while that is in the progress of happening, like I'm more than grateful for when my artists that are affiliated with Non can go to a show, you know, and perform. Like, it's great. I think that those are things that will aid in our own festivals happening, you know. But like for me personally, like that's never my end game, you know. Like that's not like I can never be content with that, you know. But I appreciate it, you know. So it's cool.
I'm just curious, Chino, because how does it make you feel when mainstream media, like our friend was asking about, like, how does it make you feel when they do start to champion you and when they do start to kind of put you on?
Right. I mean, in one sense, it's whatever, because, like, I've been talking to a lot of people for a long time, like, black people, and we've been working together on philosophy and building on and what we're about, like, independent on that, you know. But when there's a writer who, like, gets it, you know, and wants to help to, like, promote us so that we can connect to more, like, non-citizens, then I'm like, yeah, that's a great thing, you know. I feel good about that. But we're not dependent on it, you know, like by any means. So, because we're going to continue regardless if we're getting press or not. Because, you know, a lot of these publications, they'll want to talk to you when you're hot, you know. But then when you start doing something else, it's like, well, whatever, like, you know, this is not what our readers or viewers want to see. And I never want to be in a situation where I'm dependent on this person or that person, this corporation, this platform, because, like, I have my own platform, you know.
We were kind of talking before about, again, the aesthetics of it. I think it's another important thing to bring up because you do most of the art yourself. Sure. You are the creative director of Non.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how you see it sort of evolving from sort of the brutalist, communist kind of tactics that you're taking, and how you just sort of see it kind of thrust into the future, and how you see people kind of being able to perceive these kind of like violent tactics as something that are actually quite inviting.
Right. I think, like, the more these occurrences happen on an everyday level, then it won't be so, oh, this is just like this, you know, what is this sound, you know, why does this look so violent, you know? at a certain point, it's just like, that's just what it is, you know? Like, if a kid is living next to this like brutalist building, you know, every single day, he's not gonna wake up when he's 15 and be like, that building looks so brutalist and violent. Like, it just becomes a part of an everyday thing. And I feel like the more that these sounds and images come in, it's just like, oh yeah, that's what it is, you know. Like, after repeated exposure to a thing, oftentimes we become less afraid of it. Yeah, exactly, and not like a numbing, because then it's deep in the culture, and then it continues to move forward and like fluid in its own way. Like, I can't predict how it's gonna look like. All I know is that for me, it's very important to be consistent. And I don't, in my practice, I like to keep things simple and minimal, which gives the audience an ability to be more participants in the environment, because there's more flexibility. Like, I don't want to put too much like style in a certain way, because then it's like, oh, this is me manipulating the environment. Like, with the minimal flexibility, it gives people the ability to participate within the substructure.
You're creating a realm.
Yeah, it's more so creating a realm for people to walk into.
Right.
And, you know, I stay with the red and like the black in a certain way, but that's just, I think about that in terms of like, when somebody sees it so much to the point where it's just like invisible, you know? Like a Coca-Cola bottle. It's like invisible. Like, it's just a Coca-Cola bottle. It's identifiable, but it's just, it's not even there. Like,
right. Again, we become desensitized to these images and what they actually mean.
The veil, yeah.
The veil, exactly. Cool. Do we have any questions from the crowd? If not, they'll be hanging out. I want to thank Jesse and Chino and Yves for coming out. And for all you for coming to the talk. Thanks very much. Thanks, Yves, for the back shot.
Oh, yeah. That's all good. Thank you. Never Apart. Melissa.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.